My name is Tanya Lay. I'm 34. And 6 weeks ago, my boyfriend told me, loud enough for a beach full of strangers to hear, to go home if I was jealous. So I did. I caught the first flight out of Maui at 5 o'clock a.m. while he slept in a luxury beachfront resort bed, surrounded by ring lights, outfit changes, and the faint smell of coconut sunscreen. Now he's begging. And I'm watching his entire career unravel in real time, quietly, publicly, painfully, like a sandcastle collapsing grain by grain when the tide finally comes in. But before anyone decides I'm dramatic or heartless or too sensitive, you need to understand something about me. I don't walk away easily. Not because I'm stubborn, because I've seen what real chaos looks like. And I learned it the hard way that love is not supposed to feel like survival. 2 months ago, before Maui, before the viral clip, before strangers started using my life as a lesson, my world looked calm from the outside. I'm a photographer. I've been doing it professionally for about 8 years. But photography wasn't my first life. It was my second. My first life was the San Diego Fire Department. I joined in my mid-20s, chasing purpose the way some people chase adrenaline. I wanted to feel useful, necessary, part of something bigger than my own thoughts. For a while it worked, until the night I was 26 and we lost someone in a structure fire. His name was Tommy. He was the kind of firefighter who didn't have to demand respect. He earned it just by existing. The guy who remembered everyone's kids' names, who brought donuts on random Tuesdays, who made the station feel lighter just by walking in. The call looked routine. 3-story apartment building downtown, smoke from the second floor, standard entry protocol. Tommy went in with the initial attack team. I was outside setting supply lines, focused, methodical, doing exactly what I'd been trained to do. Then the building revealed what it had been hiding. Older construction, hidden void spaces, a flashover that happened faster than anyone expected. Tommy got separated. They found him 20 minutes later. I left the department 6 months after that, not because I couldn't handle the danger, but because I realized I'd been using chaos to avoid dealing with anything real inside myself. Therapy helped me name it. I didn't know how to exist in silence. Photography started as a way to survive the quiet. Early mornings at the beach, camera in my hands, capturing something calm and permanent instead of destruction and noise, sunrises instead of sirens. At first, I shot weddings, because grief doesn't pay rent. 3 years of nervous grooms, crying bridesmaids, and relatives demanding just one more famille photo. Every weekend felt like performing someone else's happiness. Eventually, I shifted into landscape and travel work, because a sunset never asks you to smile, never asks you to be anything other than present. Slowly, the work took off. Outdoor brands, commercial gigs, enough money to say no when something didn't feel right. And then I met Mason. 3.5 years ago, in a coffee shop in La Jolla, I was editing photos on my laptop. Moody skies, dunes, the kind of images that make you feel small in a good way. He was filming content for a boutique hotel partnership. Ring light, tripod, outfit changes like he was backstage at a show. I watched him work for about 20 minutes, half amused, half impressed. Not because it looked glamorous, but because it was disciplined. He wasn't just taking selfies. He was producing something. When he packed up, he sat at the table next to mine. We started talking about cameras, lenses, light. And what surprised me wasn't his smile. It was that he actually cared about the craft behind the content. He asked real questions, technical ones. It felt rare. Two creatives speaking the same language. We exchanged numbers, started meeting up for photo walks around San Diego. He practiced posing. I practiced composition. It felt collaborative, equal, like we were building something together instead of one person orbiting the other. Some of my best work came from those early months. For the first year and a half, we were genuinely good. We traveled together, my commercial gigs, his brand trips. He modeled in my landscapes, adding scale and humanity. I shot his sponsored posts so they looked intentional, not rushed. We brainstormed over breakfast. Him with his notes app open, me sketching shot ideas on napkins. He talked about algorithms. I talked about exhibitions. And he listened. His followers loved the behind-the-scenes moments, the real laughs, the process. His engagement grew. Brands noticed. Opportunities multiplied. Then something changed. There wasn't one big fight, no obvious betrayal. It was slower than that, like watching daylight fade without realizing how dark it's getting until suddenly you can't see your own hands anymore. Somewhere around the 18-month mark, I stopped feeling like his girlfriend and started feeling like his staff. Unpaid, uncredited, replaceable. He'd reshoot the same scene 12 times until the wind hit his face just right, missing the moment we'd actually come to experience. If I suggested we put the phones down, just sit, just be, his expression would harden, like I'd insulted something sacred. When we weren't filming, he wasn't present. He was scrolling, monitoring comments, tracking engagement, planning the next post like it was oxygen. Our conversations turned into logistics meetings. What time is golden hour? Did you edit those beach shots yet? Can you send me the raws from last weekend? I tried to talk about it. The first time, we were in my apartment. He'd spent 3 hours editing a single photo of himself. I said carefully, "It feels like we haven't really connected in weeks. Like we're business partners who sleep in the same bed." He didn't even look up. Told me I was being dramatic, that I didn't understand the pressure, that this was his livelihood, and I should be more supportive. The second time was after a Joshua Tree trip that was supposed to be romantic and turned into a 12-hour shoot. I told him I felt like equipment. He got defensive, said I knew who he was when we started dating. Then he said the sentence that stuck with me. "If you can't handle it, maybe you're not the right fit for my life." Not the right fit. Like I was an outfit that didn't photograph well. The third time he cried. Said the algorithm was brutal. Said he was trying his best. Said I was adding stress when he needed support. Somehow I ended up apologizing for having feelings. After that, I got quieter. Not because I stopped caring, but because I started shrinking. The Maui trip was supposed to fix things. A reset. A luxury press trip sponsored by a major Hawaiian travel company. 6 influencers. Partners invited. 5 days at an absurdly beautiful beachfront resort. Mason was ecstatic when the invitation arrived. Said this could launch him into the next tier. 6 figures. Bigger collaborations. Real visibility. I told myself paradise might remind us who we were. Partners, not performer and camera. I planned shot lists, locations, tide schedules, sunset times. Mason shopped for outfits, practiced poses, researched the other influencers like they were competition. We landed in Maui and everything looked unreal. White stone, glass walls, ocean so blue it felt staged. Day 1 was exactly what I expected. Sunrise yoga in matching sponsor outfits. Brunch bowls nobody ate. Pool shots staged to look spontaneous. I stayed back, shot coastlines, palm shadows, light hitting volcanic rock. The other partners gave me those knowing looks, the quiet solidarity of people who knew they were accessories. That night, Mason fell asleep scrolling through photos, deciding which version of himself to post first. I lay awake listening to the ocean, ignoring the small voice in my head, the voice that whispered, "Maui isn't a reset. It's a stage, and tomorrow, he's going to make you the punchline." Day 2 in Maui is where everything finally cracked. Not exploded, cracked. Like stress fractures, you don't notice until the entire structure gives way. We were up before dawn. A private beach reserved exclusively for the group, one of those stretches of coastline that looks untouched because money made it so. The resort sent a van at 5:20 a.m., windows fogged with sleep and anticipation. The light was perfect. That soft, early glow photographers dream about, the kind that turns wet sand into a mirror and makes everything look honest before the sun gets harsh and judgmental. For the first time since arriving, I felt excited. I set up my tripod, framing the way the waves rolled in evenly, the horizon holding steady. For a few minutes, it felt like old times. Me and the camera. Quiet. Focused. Then I noticed Ethan. He was the PR coordinator assigned to manage the trip. Mid-20s. Designer resort clothes that looked effortless, but clearly took effort. Perfectly messy hair. Introduced himself to the group by sharing his Instagram handle before his last name. He called himself a digital storytelling consultant without irony. From the moment we arrived, his attention locked onto Mason. At first, I told myself it was professional, that this was literally his job. But as the morning went on, it became harder to ignore. Ethan stood too close, made constant suggestions about angles, posture, hand placement, complimented every single shot Mason took like it was a masterpiece. That's fire. That's literally perfect. The algorithm is going to eat this up. Every few minutes, he found a reason to touch Mason's arm, adjust a shoulder, fix a strand of hair, always with that plausible deniability of professionalism. Mason loved it. He laughed louder, asked Ethan's opinion on everything, positioned himself near him every time the group moved. I felt my chest tighten. Not jealousy exactly, but something colder. Recognition. I'd seen this dynamic before. I just hadn't wanted to admit I was watching myself be replaced. Around noon, when the sunlight turned brutal, most of the group retreated under the palm trees. Towels, bags, iced drinks, sweating into the sand. I grabbed my laptop and found a spot about 30 yards away. Headphones in, editing the morning shots, trying to stay useful, trying to stay invisible. That's when I heard Mason laugh. Not a normal laugh. The performative one. The laugh designed to carry. The laugh that says, "Look how great my life is." I pulled one ear cup off and looked up. Mason and Ethan were standing at the water's edge, too close, framed perfectly by the ocean like a staged shot. Ethan held a bottle of sunscreen. Mason tilted his head back, smiling, that specific smile. The one he used to give me, back when things felt safe. My heart started doing that thing where it beats too hard, too fast, like it's trying to escape. Then Mason called out, loudly, projecting his voice so the entire beach could hear. "Hey, Ethan, can you help me with this? Tanya gets so weird about sunscreen stuff." A few people laughed. Not because it was funny, because laughter is what people use when they don't know what else to do. I didn't move, didn't react, kept staring at my laptop screen even though I couldn't see a single word. I could feel eyes on me, people glancing over, waiting. Then Mason turned toward me, made direct eye contact, and smirked, not a smile. A smirk, the kind that tests how far it can go. And he said, louder than before, making absolutely sure everyone heard, "Babe, if you're jealous, just go home." The beach went silent. Not dramatic silence. That stunned, suspended quiet where everyone realizes something real just happened and no one knows how to rewind it. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My hands went numb. Every instinct from my old life, every fight or flight reflex screamed at me to react. Say something. Defend myself. Make a scene. Prove him wrong. Instead, I closed my laptop, stood up, picked up my towel, and walked past him without saying a word. He called after me, "Oh my God, I'm kidding." But the edge in his voice gave him away. I didn't look back. Spent the afternoon alone in the hotel room, staring at the wall. My phone buzzed a few times. I didn't check it. When Mason came back around 6, he was annoyed. Said I embarrassed him. Said people kept asking where I went, and he had to manage the narrative. Not once did he ask if I was okay. Not once did he apologize. While he showered, I opened my laptop and looked at flights. There was a red-eye leaving at 5:15 a.m., connecting through Los Angeles, landing in San Diego by noon. I stared at that screen for a long time. Told myself I was overreacting. Told myself adults talk things through. Then I remembered how many times I already had. I clicked purchase. Packed quietly while he got ready for dinner. Moved through the room like a ghost. When he left without asking if I wanted to come, the door clicking shut sounded final. I wrote a note on the resort stationery. "You wanted me to go home. I'm just listening." Left it by his phone charger. Set my alarm. And waited for morning. I landed in San Diego just before noon. The sky was gray in that familiar coastal way. Flat, quiet, mercifully unspectacular. The kind of sky that doesn't ask you to perform. I turned my phone on while the plane was taxiing. 63 missed calls. Most from Mason. A handful from numbers I didn't recognize, probably people from the trip, or brands, or someone already trying to control the damage. The last message from Mason read, "You're ruining everything. Call me back now." I didn't. I went home, dropped my bag by the door, and sat on the floor of my apartment surrounded by camera gear and silence. That same night, the clip went viral. 15 seconds. That's all it took. Someone from the trip posted a video from the beach, Mason saying, "If you're jealous, go home." Me walking away in the background. The caption read, "When your girlfriend can't handle your success." Within 48 hours, it had millions of views. At first, I didn't look. I didn't want to know how strangers had decided to interpret my life. But eventually, curiosity won. And to my surprise, the comments weren't on his side. People asked why he'd humiliate his partner publicly, why success required cruelty, why walking away quietly somehow looked more mature than standing there begging to be respected. The internet did what it does best. It chose a villain. Mason's follower count started dropping. Thousands a day. Brands paused, then pulled out completely. The travel company that sponsored the trip terminated his contract, citing professionalism violations. They demanded repayment for the entire Maui trip. I didn't post anything. I didn't explain myself. I simply untagged myself from his photos and deleted Instagram from my phone. 2 days later, I posted one photo. A simple sunset shot from San Diego. No people, no performance. The caption read, "Respect is quiet, disrespect is loud." That single post did more for my career than anything I'd ever shared. My follower count doubled in 5 days. Then came the screenshots. A woman from the trip, one of the influencers who'd looked uncomfortable on the beach, sent them to me privately. Group chat messages from the night I left. Mason mocking me, calling me insecure, saying I had emotional baggage. Ethan replying with laughing emojis. And then the private messages. Flirting. Inside jokes. One message from Mason to Ethan, sent the day after I left. At least now I don't have to pretend. That's when it finally clicked. I hadn't walked away too early. I'd stayed too long. A journalist reached out a few days later. She was writing about emotional intelligence and boundaries in modern relationships. I said yes. I told her about firefighting, about losing someone at 26, about learning that not every crisis is meant to be fought head-on. Some things require leaving. The article went live. It was shared everywhere. And for the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Then Mason showed up at my studio, unannounced. No camera, no confidence. Just a man who had finally run out of applause. He said he wanted me to fight for him. I told him love isn't content. And that walking away was the only honest thing I'd done in years. He cried. I didn't take him back. Mason sat on the edge of my couch like it was unfamiliar territory, which was strange because he'd spent so many nights there, editing photos, charging batteries, planning content calendars, treating my space like a backstage area for his life. But now, without the armor of confidence and validation, he looked small. No makeup, no styled hair, just dark circles under his eyes and hands that wouldn't stop moving. I lost everything, he said, staring at the floor. The deals, the sponsorships, even my apartment in LA, I can't afford it anymore. I didn't interrupt. I'd learned that silence is often the most honest response you can give. He kept talking. How influencer friends stopped calling. How being associated with him suddenly felt risky. How his mom kept asking why he'd humiliated someone he claimed to love. I didn't mean it like that, he said finally. I wanted you to care. That sentence hit harder than anything else he'd said. I did care, I told him. That was the problem. He looked up at me then, eyes red. I wanted you to fight, to get jealous, to make a scene, to show everyone you wanted me. And in that moment, everything made sense. We hadn't been having the same relationship. We'd been speaking different languages the entire time. I didn't need to fight for you, I said quietly. You were already mine, but you wanted me to perform for you, to compete for your attention like it was a prize. He started crying, not the polished, camera-ready kind. The ugly, shaking kind that comes from realizing something fundamental has broken. I don't know who I am when no one's watching, he admitted. I know, I said. That's why I had to leave. I was disappearing trying to help you figure that out. He asked why I hadn't destroyed him online when I had the chance. I told him the truth. Because you did that yourself. He left without asking for another chance. A few days later, someone from the Maui trip posted a behind-the-scenes montage. Me editing quietly while others partied. Me walking away on the beach. Me leaving. The caption read, "The person who actually left when told to go home." It went viral again, but this time, people weren't mocking. They were listening. Go home energy became a phrase. A shorthand for walking away from disrespect instead of begging to be valued. Podcasts called. Galleries reached out. Workshops formed around photography and healing. Life didn't explode into happiness. It settled. Months passed. I heard through mutual connections that Mason stepped away from influencing entirely, started working behind the scenes, helping nonprofits tell their stories. Quietly. He messaged me once. I saw your work at a gallery in Sacramento. It's beautiful. I finally understand what peace looks like. I waited a few days before responding. Peace isn't something you find. It's something you stop running from. He didn't reply. I've been seeing someone new for a few months now. His name is Aaron. He's a park ranger at Torrey Pines. We met when I was shooting cliffs at sunrise, and he was leading a guided nature walk. He doesn't need an audience. He doesn't ask me to perform. We sit in silence sometimes, and it feels full. Looking back, I don't regret leaving. I regret how long I stayed trying to be quieter, smaller, more convenient. Walking away didn't make me strong. It just reminded me I already was.